Hey, I'm really glad that you joined with me this week because I believe you're going to hear a message that's going to help you open your eyes to the truth. Maybe it's something you're going through, or maybe somebody you know is going through this. But I want to talk about the area of temptation. Temptation is something that every single one of us deal with. Nobody is exempt from temptation. No matter how long you've been in the Word, how long you've been a Christian, we're all tempted. It's not if temptation comes, it's when it comes. Well, I want you to know, I've taught a message called Tailor-Made Temptations. The reason I call it tailor-made is because Satan has a tailor-made plan to try to tempt you and to deceive you and destroy your life. Now, God has a tailor-made plan for your life too. His plan is so tailor-made to fit your strengths, your hobbies, everything about you is tailor-made with God. I mean, He did it just for you, a tailor-made plan to lead you into His perfect plan for your life. Now, Satan, he works hard to size you up and to find weaknesses in your life. You know, I can't help but think about when I was in cheerleading in high school and how each of the cheerleaders, we had to go to like a seamstress and she would measure us, you know, from your shoulders to your wrist, your waist, your legs. She measured every one of us, and she had like a clipboard or a notebook with our names in it. And she would write Terri, and she'd write all my measurements down. Then she'd write Nikki or Stacy or Shannon, and she'd write everybody's names and everybody's measurements. Well, she didn't mix up my measurements with Nikki's or Stacy's with Connie's. No, she kept them individualized for each of us. And then she made a uniform to fit us. Well, Satan works the same way. I picture him to have like this notebook or this clipboard with your name on it. And he's been sizing you up since the day you were born, especially since the day you began to make decisions for your life. And he's been looking for areas in your life where you suffer repeated vulnerabilities, weaknesses. And when he finds a weakness in your life, he makes note of it. When he finds another area where you're weak or you're easily tempted to give in to sin, he makes note of it. He writes it down. And he will bring those temptations into your life over and over and over to get you to fall. Now, what I want you to realize is that nothing about Satan's plan is coincidental. Nothing about it is just by chance. It is well thought out, well planned out in every way. It's strategic in every way. The timing of the temptation is strategic. Where you're tempted is on purpose. Who you're tempted by or who you're tempted with is on purpose. When you're tempted, everything about it, where you're tempted, who you're tempted, all of that is strategic and on purpose from Satan himself. He has it all planned. Now, that's the thing, is you have to look back over your life and say, where have I easily fallen into temptations? Where have I fallen into these traps and these things in my life? You know, I look back over my life and I can see some of the areas where I have fallen into temptation, they're all around the same types of areas. Well, it's not coincidental. Satan knows that. He knows exactly where you're weak. He knows exactly where you're strong. And you can count on it. He's not going to bring temptation in your life in the areas where you're strong. He's not going to waste his time with that. He has to find weaknesses in you that he will keep bringing temptation over and over and over until you fall. You know, I can't help but think of it in fishing terms. You know, a fisherman, he'll use bait to catch different fish. He'll use a different type of bait to catch a different type of fish. Now, I'm not a fisherwoman, so I don't know a whole lot about fishing, but I know that fishermen use different bait to catch different fish. They may use a certain type of bait for a catfish, a bass fish, a blue marlin, whatever all those fish are. They use different types of bait to lure different types of fish. Think about the term lure. That bait is designed to lure that fish so the fisherman can catch him. Well, you know, Satan works the same way. He uses different bait in your life to lure you into his plan for your life. And his plan is to lure you away from God's plan for your life. So he has to find something that appeals to you. Keep in mind, Satan's baits in our life, they're very appealing. You know, sin is fun. It's very fun, but for a season. It doesn't last long, because once you give in to the temptations, yes, it may be fun in the beginning, but eventually that misery starts to set in. You know in your heart you're not in God's will. Just this torment starts to take over in your mind. And you know, I've heard Joyce Meyer say, there is nothing more miserable than a born-again sinner. So even though Satan makes the bait look good in the beginning, what we have to realize is that on the other end of that bait is a hook. And the very thing that lured you away from God, lured you into Satan's trap, is the very thing that leads to your death. Think about that with the fish. The very thing that lures that fish is the very thing that leads to his death. Because what that fish doesn't see is there is a hook on the other side of that bait. And that's what we have to wake up and see. You know, Satan makes temptations look so good that we cannot even see the hook on the other side. And I know in my life, in the areas where I've fallen for things, I've given in to things that I knew weren't right, I could not see the hook at all. All I could see was the bait. And the bait looks good, feels good, tastes good, smells good, sounds good. That's how Satan works. His plan is to deceive you. His plan is to distract you. So Satan will do anything he can to lure you away from God's plan. So you have to wake up and just realize, like, look back over your life and say, where have I been tempted in the past? What are those areas in my life where I seem to fall for things over and over and over? And just picture Satan with that clipboard watching you and making note of all of your weaknesses, all of your temptations, and strategically bringing those very things into your life over and over and over until you fall. Listen to what James warns us. He says, we are tempted when we are drawn away and trapped by our own evil desires. Then our evil desires conceive and give birth to sin. And sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. Do not be deceived, my dear friends. So the only way you can overcome deception is by hearing the word, hearing the truth. That's how you overcome deception. That's how you wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I've fallen for a trap. There's a hook on the other end of this bait that I have fallen for. And you know, I want you to know you're not alone. I preach from experience. That's the only way I know how to get messages like this. It's from experience of what I've been through in my life. So I can't go into much on a short little podcast like this, but I want you to get this message on Tailor-Made Temptations. I'm going to talk to you about how Satan tempts you. Not only that, but how to resist those temptations that always seem to get you to fall. You don't have to fall for those temptations over and over and over. You can break free. So I want you to focus on that. Don't fall for the trap. Don't be lured away from God's plan for your life. See the hook on the other end of that bait. So get this message on Tailor-Made Temptations, and I believe it's going to start to open your eyes to the truth. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again.